What's up, and welcome back to another episode of Insights, the podcast built to help you with your recruitment in digital marketing. I'm joined this week by Haley Marketing's co-CEO, David Searns. David, how are we doing this week?
I am awesome, Brad. How are you?
I'm colder than you. You're in Tampa today, right? At time of recording?
I am in Tampa, although the Floridians down here are not happy because I think it's like 40 degrees today.
Yeah.
And this weekend, they're actually saying it's going to be in the 20s. So
yeah, it might be warmer in Buffalo. I think this weekend we're going to get up to mid-20s too, so we might actually beat you somehow.
Yeah, and down here you got to watch out for iguanas falling out of trees because that's a thing that happens when it gets below 40.
What, do they freeze?
They get like they go inanimate. They don't die. They literally kind of just go still, and if they're in a tree, they fall out, and then when it warms up, they scurry off.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that
at
all.
I didn't know that either. I think I've only seen one that happened to. It's really odd.
Okay. Yeah. That'll definitely catch you by surprise if you're just out for a walk and next thing you know, you're getting pegged with one of those things. You know, an apple falling out of a tree is one thing, an iguana is completely different.
Welcome to Florida.
Right. David, I want to talk to you today about starting a growth engine, something that you've been incredibly passionate about over the last couple of weeks. And for the listeners who aren't subscribed to our Smart Ideas newsletter, I want to tee up the conversation with just a real short excerpt from one of the recent issues that you had put out. You had said, staffing and recruiting firm owners don't wake up and say, you know what we need this quarter? More content, more social posts, a prettier brand. But they absolutely need what marketing produces. Attention in a noisy market, trust with skeptical buyers, preference when everyone looks the same, a reason to call back, a pipeline that doesn't depend on luck, and a recruiting engine that attracts better people, not just more applicants. Marketing won't magically make employers hire, but it will make it a whole lot easier for your staffing firm to sell, recruit, and protect margin in 2026. David, what do you mean by all that?
Well, that's a big one. But I appreciate you reading it back because it's awesome to hear what you've written in somebody else's voice and not as you're saying it to yourself in your own head.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
You got it.
You know, Brad, if we look at what's going on in the market right now, I was thinking about this yesterday. So we talk about, staffing industry analyst talks about the penetration rate of temporaries into the workforce. And not that long ago, it was hovering around 3%. So 3 out of every 100 workers were temps. Then starting in 2023, something happened that nobody can quite explain. It fell down to, I think it's like 1.6%. So if you're in the staffing industry, the overall economy has slowed down, but the percentage of workers that are temps has gone down by almost 50%. It's terrifying. And if you are going to beat out the competitor down the street, the global player coming in from across the world, the new staffing platform, the typical strategy of, hey, we're just going to increase our call volume is not going to cut it. I need to do something to differentiate how I sell. I need to do something to help my salespeople have a real advantage. And so this idea of creating a growth engine is really thinking through all of the components of what marketing is, how it interacts with sales, and putting it together into a structure that just makes more sense and is easier to implement. So marketing doesn't just become stuff. It becomes a core part of sales strategy.
Does every staffing firm need this growth engine?
Yeah, I'm biased, but if you want to stay in business in the next few years, you absolutely need it. Could you get by with, yeah, I'm just going to do what I did before when times are tough, make more calls? Maybe. But I think if you look at the world today, it's increasingly difficult to reach buyers. They're more skeptical. There are more buyers in the process, so it's harder to win them all over. And if I don't have something as a salesperson that makes my job easier, I'm going to really struggle. And as I think a lot of staffing companies have seen, the salespeople will move on to an industry that's easier to sell in. You'll lose your best salespeople. So if you don't give them the support, you're going to lose your 8 players.
That's something I said on stage in Nashville last week. I said something along the lines of buyers aren't ghosting you. They're more skeptical than ever. They're more busy than ever. And they're more sophisticated than ever. So they're skeptical of who is selling to them on the other end of the call, but they're also more sophisticated in the sense of they're already doing their research. You had made a point a little while ago. What was it? 80% of people have already made a decision before they pick up the phone. What was the data you said in consulting?
Let me flip that around a little bit. So if you think about buying something, and let me use an example everybody can understand. You go to buy a car, right?
Yeah.
I don't just walk into a dealership having done no homework. I already know the make and model I want. I've probably already researched it online. I know all of the issues with the car. Hell, if I've done my job, I know what the dealer paid for that car, and I know how much I'm willing to spend over the dealer's invoice. I know all that walking in the door. That's they call that buyer enablement. The buyer shows up ready to make a purchase decision. So it's a really smart guy. I know you've heard me talk about him. If I haven't talked about him on the show before, his name's Marcus Sheridan. He wrote a book called They Ask, You Answer, and a newer update to it called Endless Customers. And what he said in the book is that by the time in B2B sales, by the time a buyer shows up and is willing to sit down with a salesperson in a B2B organization, they've already done 80% of their homework. They're already 8/10 of the way through to making a decision, and that the meeting with the salesperson is really verification. It's final questions they couldn't get answered elsewhere. Now, I saw Eric Gregg from Clearly Rated talk about this exact topic last fall, and he said in staffing, it wasn't quite 80%, but their research showed it was 54%. So basically, the deal's half done by the time you have your first sales call.
That's terrifying for staffing firms that are not working with buyer enablement in mind.
Yeah, 100%. So if that person I'm having my first call with is not already positively predisposed to working with my organization, I now have such an uphill battle to climb. They may just be going through the motions because they have to talk to 3 vendors, but number one is already 50+% done of getting the sale. You need to be that number one.
Yeah, and I'm thinking through in an industry with already negative stereotypes, negative connotations, I think stereotypes is probably the best word. People are doing their due diligence. They're doing that research. And we need to make sure that we are then setting ourselves up for success when we do have the opportunity to talk to somebody. Because it's not just making more calls, it's setting ourselves up for success so that people can do their own research to enable the call.
Yeah, 100%. And what we need to think about is what does a buyer need to know to make a purchase decision? How do they buy? What are they going to look at? What are they going to evaluate? Marcus Sheridan talks about a big 5 questions. They're going to want to know what's your price? And that can be literally what's your markup, but it may be more generally, how do you approach pricing? Is it the same as everybody else? They want to know, how do you compare to your competitors, or how do various solutions you offer compare to one another? They want you to do the homework on doing that comparison for them so they don't have to do it. They want to know who's considered the best in the market and why. Are you the best? If you're not the best, where do you shine? Where are your strengths? If you're not the number one highest rated staffing agency in your particular location, that's okay. Only one company can be number one. But then what's the reasons to work with your agency that might be 2, 3, or 4 on the list? They want to know, and this one's a big one, what problems are they likely to have using your services? If someone is new to staffing, they want to know staffing in general. If someone is very experienced, they want to know what problems you have had with clients and how you've dealt with them, because they basically want to know you're on top of solving the problems. It's sort of like objection handling in sales. You want to bring up the objections before the prospect raises them to show the prospect, I know the issues in our business and we've already thought through how we're going to solve it. With the buyer enablement, we're thinking through the same thing, but not objections, problems. I know the issues with staffing. I know the issues you've had in this industry. Here's how we deal with it. Here's why we're going to give you a result nobody else gives you.
Hey, really quick. Usually this is where I talk about one of Haley Marketing Services. But today, our co-CEO, David, asked me to make a very specific offer exclusive to listeners of Take the Stage and Insights. Candidly, I think he's a little crazy, but here we go. He told me I could offer a $10,000 staffing website for half. That includes one of our proven starter sites, fully customized for your firm, brand new copy, our career portal software, and foundational SEO, all for 2 payments of $2,500, plus hosting and licensing. I got to be honest, the reason he's doing this, he wants me to prove people are actually listening to this show. So if you're thinking about a new website, message me on LinkedIn and mention the crazy website promo from Take the Stage or Insights. One catch, it's limited to the first 7 staffing firms. So don't wait. All right, let's get back to the show.
So how do we build the growth engine? And I will say this is something that I know you're passionate about, right? So you pen our Smart Ideas newsletter. I think you're on maybe issue 3 of that series, 3 of 6, something along those lines. I've heard it now from you in probably 2 consulting classes at Haley. Other meetings that you and I have just been a part of, I've heard the phrase growth engine multiple times. And I know when you get passionate about something, it's because there's good reason behind it.
Yeah, and what I was trying to do is take all of the things that go into marketing, which tend to be kind of disparate stuff. So we see a lot of companies that want to do outbound automations. So email automation sequences. So everybody's doing automation sequences. We see people that are saying, hey, I need help. I just need the right messaging, and that'll get through. We see people that want to do digital marketing. I talked to somebody this week. I need to be active on social. We challenged that, like, why and what to what outcome. But what we don't see people doing is thinking about how do all these pieces fit together, and how do you create a multiplicative effect when you start doing all the right things. And so there's 6 parts to this growth engine, and I'll quickly run through them. Number 1 is the foundation, my messaging. Essentially, what am I going to say to people that's going to make them want to talk to me? What's my positioning? What's my key differentiation? What's my value proposition? Is there a really compelling core story that hooks people in? That's the foundation. Then it's my website. There's horrible statistics about the percentage of people who visit a website and never take action. It's like 98%. So you're spending all this money to talk to prospects. Your sales team's making tons of calls. The people who may be interested, they're going to your website before they respond to the salesperson. And is the website teeing up the sales? Is it optimized to convert? So that's number 2, messaging, your website. Number 3 is the sales enablement. Am I giving the sales team a better process for selling and better tools so they're going to be more effective? Number 4 is the buyer enablement we were just talking about. Does my website, does my social media, am I doing something to answer all those questions people are going to ask? Am I providing a self-service layer so people can do their research, do the comparative analysis, and they're doing it on my website, not my competitor's site, or not just doing it through an AI search, unless that AI search is referencing me all over the place. Then I have to think about the inbound. Do I have an employer attraction piece? So am I doing something to get found? Search engine optimization, AI optimization, paid advertising, social media, reputation management. That all goes into that getting found layer. Then the next one, and I think people often forget, or they often assume they do really well that they don't, is a nurturing layer. What am I doing to stay top of mind in a way that strengthens that positioning and gives my salespeople an excuse to follow up every single month? So those are the 6 layers. And then there's a 7th piece that kind of touches several of the other ones, and that's the automation layer. So how do I layer in automation to increase efficiency in the sales enablement, in the buyer enablement, in the nurturing, so that every client, every prospect, every former client is regularly hearing from us in a way that builds on that messaging. So that's the growth engine.
I have a lot of calls in the industry, and to me, where I think most staffing firms are falling short is step 1, and it's the foundation. And I'd love your take on that as well, but I don't think many firms know their differentiators. I don't think they know their value proposition. And if they do, I don't think they're properly and efficiently articulating that when it comes to messaging. Would you agree or disagree?
10,000%. I literally had this call yesterday, Brad, talking to a client I've known for 20 years. And they're dealing with some ups and downs in their business. They actually just lost a very large account and very upset by that, understandably so. So they sat down with their team and they tried to figure out those differentiators. And what they did is they asked the team, what makes us different? What makes us special? And they brainstormed a great list of differentiators. However, everything they brainstormed was about them. Here's how our services are different. Here's how our team is different. Nothing in their brainstorming was about what the client needs. They didn't start with really analyzing what are the problems that we're uniquely qualified to resolve. what's the customer that really cares about the differentiation list we came up? This is a discussion we had yesterday, is they had a good list of reasons their company did a great job on quality, reliability, high level of service. And I asked the question, who cares about that? Because if you're selling that to everybody right now in the marketplace, the majority of buyers have been trained, hey, everybody's alike, so low markup wins. Oh, you're at a 42 and this other company's at a 28, I'm going with the 28. So who cares about the value proposition the 42 markup can deliver? And what is that value? How do you translate that into problems we solve? How do you translate that into greater value? So when you said companies struggle with the differentiation, absolutely, because they're not translating it to how do we deliver value for our ideal customers. They don't even define those ideal clients and their buyer personas. And so they know, here's our value to every decision maker I'm going to be selling to. And our sales team, they get out of bed being able to recite that.
That's sort of along the same lines. Mark Whitby talks about having that signature solution, right? And when you don't have a signature solution, you're competing on price. You're competing apples to apples. But if you have a signature solution that truly differentiates you, makes you unique, well, now you're selling apples to oranges. And now price becomes less of a conversation starter because you're in a different world. You're in a different realm. And that's something that I've been talking to a lot of people about lately.
I do like that, having a signature solution. And you've heard me talk about this, but I'll share it on the show for anybody who hasn't. One of the key things in positioning your company is you always use the analogy, like I can tell someone, go buy me a box of Cheerios. And instantly they know, oh, that's cereal. I go to the grocery store, I go to the cereal aisle, I get the yellow box, there's the Cheerios. But the question I like to follow up with is, well, you knew to go to the cereal aisle because you knew what Cheerios was. And if I say staffing, everybody knows what the staffing aisle looks like and where it is. And is that the aisle you want to be in? So when you talk about a signature solution, do I want to position it as a staffing solution, or is it something different? Am I solving a different problem? If you look at RPO, that's a form of staffing solution. If you look at MSP, that's a form of staffing solution. If you look at the new on-site platforms, that's a form of staffing solution. But all three of those other industries define their solution by a different aisle than the staffing aisle. And you may choose to be in the staffing aisle, which is great because everybody understands that aisle that you're selling to, but now I'm commoditized in that aisle. Or I'm going to pick a new aisle, I'm going to put myself in that aisle, but that's a hard sale because nobody understands why they need that new aisle. So you got to choose, which aisle do I play in? Because if I'm going to pick differentiators, I have to think about what makes me different, where do I play, and then who cares? Who's the ideal customer?
What's also interesting there too is I'm going through this grocery store analogy, and a buyer might have preconceived notions about the staffing industry, and their staffing aisle might be disheveled. There might be boxes all over the floor. One of the racks might be kind of tipped over. To them, the staffing aisle is, they don't want to go down that aisle anymore. So now the messaging needs to almost convince them why they should come down the aisle and get that bright yellow shiny box that is your business and your services. But in their minds, they don't want to go down that aisle right now.
Completely. And that's why you're seeing the penetration rate has fallen.
Yeah.
And that's why I think staffing companies need to be creative, thinking about, let's go to the cereal analogy because it's really easy to understand. So most cereal is in the cereal aisle, except for the cereal that's in the organic section. That's different. Except for the cereal that's in the gluten-free section. That's different. So the grocery store has segmented to different buyers, different types of products. Those who want to pay more because they really care about health are in the organic section. Those who need to, for allergens and health reasons, eat gluten-free, that's there. So in staffing, if I just am staffing, I'm in the cereal aisle with the Cheerios. That's the most commoditized. I don't necessarily need to jump into an aisle and create a brand new category, but I might need to show that there's types of staffing that aren't in that aisle. And now I have to show somebody why not all staffing is stuck in the staffing aisle.
I want you to talk owner to owner for a second and thinking through somebody who's been doing this for 20 to 25 years, who sort of already has their messaging. They have what they envision as their differentiators or their value proposition. They've been doing this for so long that sort of, this is our lane. This is how we've always done it, David. This is how we're going to continue to do it. What's sort of your message to that person? Not to say a wake-up call, but what would you say to that owner right now?
Yeah, what I would say first is bench test it. Go to your existing clients and take your top 10 clients and have the owner go out and schedule a meeting with 10 clients and say, why do you work with us? what about our staffing company? I know there's dozens you can choose from, maybe hundreds in our market. What do you like about us? And then I would find out, do the responses from their customers match those differentiators? If they do, great, you're in alignment. Then I would say, what makes my top 10 customers similar? Is it an industry segment? Is it a size? Is it a who we get to deal with in the organization? Is it their attitude towards staffing? Is it the types of problems we can solve? Is it the roles we fill? What makes them similar? Because I want to look for more customers like that. And then the third thing I would do is I would go to my salespeople and I would say, okay, tell me what makes our company different and why. Number one, what makes it different? Number two, who our ideal customers are. And number three, why those ideal customers would care about that difference. Because I want to make sure there's alignment between what the owner knows about the business and what everybody is saying. And once I know I have that alignment of communications, then I also go look at all of our collateral materials and website. That would be the fourth thing is there alignment there as well. And what I often find out is there's a big gap in materials that were created 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we just got a website upgrade that's a 10-year-old site. The business has changed. And if the messaging is inconsistent anywhere, the website, the sales materials, what the sales team is saying, whatever's the weakest message is the one the prospect is going to remember.
Hey, it's Brad taking a quick break to give a shout out to a team I trust deeply at FoxHire. I've known their team for over 7 years now, and if you're looking for an employer of record partner that helps recruiters confidently grow contract placements and build recurring revenue without taking on extra risk, FoxHire is perfect for you. They do it all: payroll, taxes, benefits, workers' comp, and multi-state compliance behind the scenes. You keep full control of your client relationships and bill rates, while FoxHire takes on the employer responsibility and back office work. This makes it easier to turn contract placements into predictable recurring revenue. I gotta be honest, I trust the team at FoxHire. And if you're considering an EOR partner, I'd love for you to have a conversation with them to hear how FoxHire can support your growth. You can visit foxhire.com/Haley for more information. All right, let's get back to the show.
My favorite stories, for the wrong reasons. In my time here at Haley, I had a client on a call one time say that they use a sell sheet. They have a one sheet that they go out and use. And I remember this individual distinctly saying that when she goes out, she crosses off a section of it because they don't do that line of work anymore. And I remember very clearly on the phone, and it was somebody that I had known for a while, so I had a pretty good relationship. I had said something along the lines of, you're trying to make a first impression with somebody by crossing something off in Sharpie? Like, what impression is that sending? No wonder they're not calling you back. But speaking to collateral and the importance of updating that, friends, if you're crossing things off on a sell sheet, it's probably time to think about creating a new one.
Or the sticker with the new address.
Right. I mean, we can print these things very, very affordably at this point. But honestly, one of my favorite stories. And luckily, I think I got them to see the light. But definitely interesting. Okay, so we talked foundation. Please, you're going to go somewhere.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we talked foundation, and we both sort of agree that that's a good starting point. From there, you have sort of these 5 or 6 other steps or stages that are important in the growth engine machine. What matters most to you after the foundation? Is it website number 2, or is it something else?
If I have to go sequentially, I'd make website number 2, just because I know people are going to go there before the meeting. And so if I'm losing people at the website, if I'm not optimizing that site for conversions, I'm losing so many opportunities. I'm literally just giving money away. It is not very expensive. If you look at a website as a 3 to 5 year investment, even if you do an entirely new website, you're talking a tiny amount per month over the life of that website versus the number of job orders that could come in by really optimizing it. And if you're saying, I just can't optimize it, I just can't build a new website now, then go through and do a detailed audit of the site to look at all of the things that drive response. And quick pitch, yeah, we do that for free for people. So if you want a 30-point review, reach out. Brad's going to give you a URL somewhere in here. Reach out and we'll get that done for you. But I also want to, Brad, the sales enablement stuff, I want to know where my sales team's getting stuck, because I don't want them to have to wait for a new website to give them some tools to be more successful. So are they getting stuck telling the story? Are they getting stuck because I don't have anything unique to say? Are they getting stuck because I need something to open the door, or maybe they're great at opening the door, and then I need something to get to that next step. I just want to know where they're stuck in the sales funnel and work on improving the playbook for wherever they're stuck, which could be through marketing materials, training, process changes, etc.
What might that look like? So for the, sales rep who on Thursday needs to go out and prospect with, 10 drop-bys, 10 drop-ins, whatever it might be. I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to go prospect with 10 people. How might we make that process more efficient or effective for them?
Yeah, if you're doing the very traditional, drop by, what am I doing when I drop by? So I'm going in, very likely I'm not getting in a meeting unless it was a pre-scheduled call. I'm just going to leave something. So think there, I got to create an experience. The fact that I showed up has to create an experience that differentiates me as a salesperson, that differentiates my company. So what can I drop off? Please don't say donuts, because that's what people used to do years and years and years ago. I drop off some goodie. Okay. I don't mind consumables, because consumables people like to share, but you need to put something with it. And this is where I'm a big fan of the challenger sales framework. I want to challenge people's thinking. So I want to drop something off that makes them go, huh, I never thought about staffing that way. I never thought about ABC staffing that way. I didn't realize you could solve a problem by thinking about people that way. I didn't realize I could control my costs that way. I want to do something that challenges their thinking, so the salesperson's follow-up to the drop-by now has a real meaningful engagement point, a real meaningful door opener. So that's what I want to do. Is I want to just do something that differentiates the experience somebody has in that drop-off or drop-by.
I've had a lot of conversations recently where people don't have anything to leave behind. They're just showing up and leaving a business card. And maybe you need me on your Friendly Neighborhood podcast to say those are immediately getting tossed in the trash. But I don't think at scale, just leaving a business card is doing anything, right? It's just no one's going to get that card, David, and just say, you know what, I have to call Brad back because he dropped his business card off. I'm with you 100%. There needs to be some sort of curiosity. There needs to be some sort of challenge mindset to, okay, what does this guy and what does this company do differently that is going to stop me in my tracks? Because otherwise, that business card's probably not even making it past the gatekeeper or the receptionist.
Yeah, but I'll give you one it's a product of ours. So audience, apologize, but this is going to be a little promotional, but it's also, I was talking to a client who uses a product of ours called Insights. It's a branded magazine. And I said, tell me what you think about this. Why do you love it? And there was the owner of the company and 3 salespeople at a meeting. I have never seen such an immediate positive response. They said, having a magazine with our name on it, when we go into the lobby and we drop it off, nobody's doing anything like that. And people are just kind of blown away that, wait a minute, you have a magazine about your business and about how to use staffing and workforce solutions? That's amazing. He said, and then we do this 6 times a year. We have a new magazine and it's filled with articles, and every article is something to talk about. So we have really meaningful conversations. And so it doesn't have to be our Insights magazine, but the idea is they're doing something. A magazine is tangible, it's different, and it creates the door opening. And I agree with you. I see so many people as I drop off a business card, or I do something that I drop off that is purely promotional about our business. Here's my capabilities. Here's my brochure. Nobody wants that. They want something that's about them and their problems and helps them solve a problem, and it gives them tactical answers to things they're dealing with every day. That's what makes them want to have the next conversation with the salesperson.
With you. Where else do we go from here? So we talked buyer enablement pieces. We're going a little bit, disjointed, and that's my apologies as host here to kind of guide the ship. But we went down the path of the foundation. We talked website. We talked buyer enablement. What else are you passionate about in that growth engine framework?
The nurturing piece.
Why?
The nurturing piece, because I've heard you say on the show many times, 12 to 15 to up to 70 touch points. So what am I doing to nurture over the long term? And if you're in sales, it's impossible to think about, I'm going to have 70 touches to bring in a new lead. No way. It's not realistic. So marketing has to be integrated with sales, saying, hey, do we have the right message? Are we addressing the buyer's problems, concerns, issues, interests? Are we sharing interesting stuff in a consistent basis? So we're in front of people. I used to say once a month. Now I would say 2 to 3 times a month, because I don't know when a staffing need is going to pop up. And if it's a sales pitch 2 or 3 times a month, that's annoying as hell. So now I need to be in front of somebody regularly with different kinds of communication, but that add value, that build relationships, strengthen positioning and create that ongoing reason for someone to make a follow-up. Because now, if I do that over time, it will make a very positive impact on the buyer and make the salesperson's job much easier. I remember, if you listen, let me tell you quick stories. Like our very beginning in business, we used to send out, it was not sophisticated. We'd like get an article, we'd print it out in a laser printer, we'd put a letter with it, we'd stuff it in an envelope, we'd mail them out. And after months and months and months of doing this, I got a call from a gentleman who said, "Hey, David, I'm getting your mailings, but I don't own a staffing company. I know you're sending them to me because you think I do. My daughter owns a staffing company." And I said, "Oh, I'm very sorry." And they said, "Oh, wait." And then, I am not exaggerating, he then talked for 40 minutes to tell me his life story, the story of his daughter, the staffing company. And then he paused and he said, "David, I don't know why I'm telling you all of this, but I feel like I know you from the marketing you did." And I said, "That's why we do the marketing we do." And that's the power of nurturing, is when you do that with stuff that adds value, that stuff that feels somewhat personalized. And now AI makes it easier to personalize at a higher level. You are helping the salesperson to build and nurture those relationships at a much greater scale than an individual can do it. So, Brad, that's the next thing I think it often gets missed, is I need to have that nurturing component.
I think we miss that regularly as an industry. We're so transactional in getting the order today that we're not building the relationship that could be, I think you said it was a couple of years out, whatever it is. We in our minds don't have time to build that relationship because we need the order now. And it's difficult, right? It's how do I lay the framework today for success tomorrow when I need business today? I understand that, but knowing that relationship marketing, like you just alluded to, has such a powerful impact. I mean, I'm bought into it. That's why I do what I do over here for us, and why you are such an advocate for it.
Well, that's this podcast is a form of nurturing. The
Mhm.
Smart Ideas newsletter that I'm running is a form of nurturing. You made me think of a story I heard. It was not from staffing. It was a lady who was in real estate in Washington, D.C., and she really believed in nurturing, and she did stuff, you know, religiously over a long period of time. And I heard her talking, and she said a prospect once came to her and said, "How do I get off your list?" And she said, "Oh, it's simple: buy or die." So I'm like, that's the right attitude. It's like, I'm not gonna be annoying, but I'm never giving up.
Yeah. There's disclaimer in the Smart Ideas newsletter. There is an unsubscribe button.
There is an unsubscribe button. Yes, you can get out.
Small disclaimer, but those are two other options as well. What else should the average owner know right now? Right. So I think we've gone down a good path of this framework, understanding the growth engine. What else is on your mind right now as it relates to the industry?
Yeah, and the missing piece might be that we haven't talked about. I guess I have two. One is that buyer enablement, because I think that's really overlooked in staffing. And I would suggest that go to your existing customers, have your salespeople do it, have your recruiters do it, and simply ask the question: when you go to evaluate a new staffing vendor, what are the things that you are going to research? And ask them. And then when they give you an answer, just keep repeating the phrase, "And what else? We do this. And what else? We do this. And what else?" And when they finally say, "That's it, there's nothing more," now you know all the things you need for buyer enablement when you put that together across your top clients. So I think that's what's missing, is people don't know what somebody needs to look at for that buyer enablement. And then the last thing that I think was missing, we didn't talk a lot about the automation, but that is just where are the opportunities. I mentioned it earlier, but it's really thinking about the automation platforms that are out there. What can I do to make this super easy to implement by ensuring consistency, by ensuring that no prospect, no customer, no candidate ever gets forgotten, because the automation platforms that are out there make it easier than ever to ensure every transaction turns into an ongoing series of communication. And again, to educate, to position,
Yeah.
to build relationships.
What would you say to the owner who is reluctant to create those buyer enablement pieces because they're afraid they're giving away too many secrets?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And I've had this happen so many times throughout the past 30 years. I don't want to tell people how to do this, my secret sauce. I would say, no, that's your proof of value. When you show somebody what it takes to be really good at recruiting and how much work you put into finding the right candidate, managing the candidate relationship, managing that throughout the entire work assignment. When you look at what you do in technology and what you do in managing your team, and you show people the details so they could go build their own staffing company from your expertise, you're also at the same time showing them how valuable you are, how much you know, and how much they don't want to do it on their own because it's too much work, because everybody wants the easy button. And they assume there's an easy button unless you show them that good results look easy because there was a lot of work.
Hey, it's Brad taking a short break to tell you about an offer exclusive to listeners of Take the Stage. 30 minutes of strategic marketing consultation with me, completely free. Hey, whether you're looking to drive more sales or more job applications, I want to help. Visit bit.ly/stage offer. Pick a time that works best for you. That's it. Again, whether you want to drive more applications or more job orders, I want to help. That's bit.ly/stage offer. All right, let's get back to the show.
David, before I let you go, I got one rapid fire round question. You've been on enough where I don't think we need to go through all of them. Is there anything that you wish we talked about on this conversation, though, before I do get to that rapid fire round? I know that's a super open-ended question, so maybe I can reframe it for you.
The thing that it's something that's bothering me, and it's that we've talked about it twice, but it's that the penetration rate. Why don't employers want to use more temps? Work is more project oriented and transactional than ever. We're looking at, companies are doing skills-based hiring because I hire people for the specific task that needs to be done. That should go hand in hand with an explosion in the amount of temporary staffing. So I would want to talk to my clients and find out why. Work is more project oriented. Staffing makes it easier to be project oriented. Why are you using fewer temps? Is it a trust? Is it a quality? And I would try to figure out whatever the root cause of using less is. And I would say, how can we fix that problem? Because if you can fix that problem, you can change the game in terms of the market opportunity for your business. I don't know the answer to it. And I would suggest that everybody listening try to get the answer from their clients.
David, before I let you go, I got to ask you one more question. What book are you currently reading, or what book have you read recently that is notable and worth talking about?
Yeah, actually, I was just at a entrepreneurs organization event last week, and one of the speakers was a PhD in the subject of learning. And she handed out a book about learning how to learn. And I never thought about it before. Like, if you're going to learn a new skill, like I've been trying to get better at AI, like the whole world wants to get better at AI. But I'm really trying to get better at how I use AI. And I realized I didn't have a process. And so this lady in her book showed a really nice process for, she called it meta learning. But how do I develop a plan for creating the right stimulus that gets me excited, the motivation to learn? How do I get reinforcement of what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong? How do I get guidance where I need guidance? And building this little system like a flywheel to help you learn how to learn. So that was really cool because I never thought about it. And just raising awareness that you need to have a process for learning, I think will be super impactful as I learn to learn going forward.
Yeah. David, always fun talking to you. Appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insights with us.
Thanks, Brad. I always enjoy the conversation, so thanks for inviting me on.